Too late. when it's gone through.
All right, so why don't we call the meeting to order? It's 4:31. So, and I know they're got a fairly long agenda and some people want to leave a bit early, so we'll try to move as expeditiously as we can. I think though, before we go any further, minutes and so forth, I'd like to, so we have a couple new faces here today. And why don't we all go around and introduce ourselves so that the newcomers can identify who we are. Okay. Michael Mason.
Peggy Kapusovsky from Georgetown.
Lori Martin from Woolwich.
Dawn Lee from West Bath.
Samantha Wicker, Development Director here.
Leslie Dallinger, Director.
Jack Underwood, Recording Secretary.
Tommy Davis, Woolwich.
Anthony Jameson, Bath.
Terry Gordon, Bath.
This carries the city council.
Yeah, Ward.
Board three.
Sit here, but you won't be seen.
Maria Zartarian from West Bath. Cindy Brown from the Rosic and RSU one rep. And I'm Lauren Bray from Georgetown for a year.
Rotating city rep. I'm Carl Albrecht, I'm the president of the board. Okay. So, and? Oh.
Last but not least, Eileen Harkett from Arosik.
Okay.
How about online?
So, all right.
Dean Emerson from Woolwich.
And Richard Kessler from Bath.
Okay. All right. Let's move on then to the secretary's report. That is the minutes of the January 9th meeting. Like, we'll have to make have a motion for this. Okay. Over to parliamentary. All right. Are there any, you had a chance to look at it? Are there any questions, comments, suggestions? I had one small one. On the part of the minutes that talks about Peggy's question about the job shadowing, I think she placed that, whether this was going this year. I think we could put a parenthetical in, I believe that it is available this year.
That's what Elizabeth said, yeah.
Yeah. So why don't we just put that in parenthetically so that we know that that's to be complete directly.
I had a few comments.
Okay, Peggy?
Under the librarian's report, about Laurel's presentation last month. Laurel said so many things. I know it was hard to capture. And I was just wondering whether we might want to append, like if Laurel has her presentation or something. That was a really meaty presentation. So I could understand it was hard to capture it all, but I just a thought about that. And so that was one thing I wondered about. And also under that, it says there was a discussion of the 23-24 director's goals, but it doesn't give any flavor of what the discussion or highlight or anything. So you wouldn't really know if you were looking at this, anything about the discussion. So.
The
discussion
was that we agreed to put that off.
Oh, was it? Because I couldn't remember.
Well,
And then I thought, well, if we had a discussion, what was it,
I think this became a more sensitive issue because it was something we thought that actually should have been done in the executive committee. And
Okay,
it wasn't, so that's why we didn't put it in the main text.
okay, I see. So we never even had a discussion.
Yes, we did, but
Okay,
we,
Okay.
after discussing it later, I think Leslie and Michael and I, and maybe others, we thought that it probably shouldn't be part of the public record because that's typically something we discuss in executive session as a personnel matter.
okay,
And we, frankly, we just didn't catch that when we were discussing it. So,
okay. So should that be in here at all?
I think so. I mean, because it was something that was pointed out. We can say that, but
I think because it was on the agenda,
Yeah.
that's why.
Okay,
yeah, right. It was on the agenda.
fine. I didn't remember the discussion and okay, fine.
Yeah, and that was, I think, decision will be.
And then the only other thing under governance, we just might want to add that we reported on the corporator survey. We just say survey.
Oh, yeah.
That That's
I
all.
think that's a good one. It's good clarification.
Mm.
As far as Peggy's first point, people feel, I don't know, if Laurel's got it, her PowerPoint, whatever she used, we can append that, make it part of the official minutes if you want to. It was a lot of information.
I'll ask Laura for that.
Okay, that's agreed to. All right. No question. Then is there motion to approve as amended? Second, all in favor? Minutes are approved as amended. Well, chair's comments, just as usual, I have kudos to the library staff, they all deserve it. But I want to say, it looks like the pods are off to the races already, judging by doing it, as is LibCal for scheduling. It's a nice little program. If you haven't tried it, I fooled around with it a little bit today. Hope I didn't inadvertently reserve something that wasn't my intention. Also glad to see that the space committee is getting together and getting down and talking about concrete things. Kudos for this Tom History series. It's almost a victim of its own success, considering how many people are now attending. But I went to the first one in person and it was SRO plus about 40 people on Zoom. So we'll do that. And then for all you trustees, I hope that you've had a chance to fill out the board self-evaluation survey. Steve worked with MEMP to get that around to everybody. Should have gotten, if you need to do it right away, it should have been an automated reminder. So it was one of the things that we talked about in setting the board's goals for this coming year, and as a result of the survey to talk about doing a self-evaluation. So I hope you were all able to do that. Steve's not here. I'm not sure if it could be reopened now. I believe the deadline has passed, but I don't know if it can be reopened or not, but just want to point out that that was something that we wanted to do, and fortunately, thanks to Steve and Leslie, got through. Right.
Question, Leslie, how many people were missing that were able to respond to that? It looked pretty helpful.
So we have 91 corporators and 44 completed the survey.
I was talking about the
Oh,
board
The board.
survey.
oh, the
I'm talking
board
about
self.
trustees survey.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's
I
a
don't
different-
actually know.
yeah.
I'm not involved in that. Sorry.
And I made a mistake, I should say, starting right away, about the adjustments to the agenda. It has been proposed that in relation to the corporators survey, that we call a special meeting to discuss the survey results, probably next month in March. So instead of waiting till October as we normally would, since one of the things mentioned in the annual corporator meeting was a way to get more feedback from the corporators, also try to involve them, integrate them more into our activities. And we thought the first step was to get the corporators' views on what they felt was valuable, what wasn't valuable, how the corporators' structure could be improved, how they want to get involved, et cetera, et cetera. So with that in mind, we can move that, if we want to a new, I guess that'd be new business, but we think we should keep, that will be part of the agenda today. Right. That being said, we can move on to the librarian's report. Leslie?
Okay, a couple things. One thing I wanted to announce, except that I don't know the name of the board, but I was contacted by the Bath YMCA by Caroline Corris, that we are a recipient of an award that we will be receiving at their annual meeting. And I can't remember the name of the award, but it's, and she talked really fast. She was yeah, and she was in the car on her way somewhere else, and she's like, I'll send you the information, so I'm waiting on it, but it's some sort of, community award for our work in partnership with the Y, and we're really excited to receive that award. So the annual meeting is on, I believe, on the 29th, and so she's going to send me the link so that we can invite some board representatives, Carl, and maybe another board member and a couple of staff to attend. and get recognized. So I will get the name of the award, or we'll find out. So it's very exciting that we're being honored by the Y. And we have been working with them quite a bit on, Hannah's been working, there's a whole series on Malaga Islands that's taking place here, but that she's coordinating with the Y. We've also, the Y has been holding their monthly board meetings here at 7:30. And Elizabeth, but it's mostly Elizabeth, or I have been graciously coming in the morning to get here early so that they can do that. And so we want to build our partnership. So it's something that we've been wanting to do for some time. So we're really pleased by this award, by this honor. So yeah. So that's one thing. And then I just wanted to give you a couple update. I know we've been talking over the past board meetings and continue to talk about updates to the strategic plan. And I wanted to give you a couple of updates since our last meeting. There is some forward movement in a couple of areas, which I'm very excited about. One of them is on the ad hoc municipal funding committee. So we had a meeting last week. Was it last week? Tommy, Rick, Samantha, Elizabeth Manning, and I met. And I made a proposal to the committee. Tommy was gracious enough to take minutes, which you did receive in your board packet. And so I don't know if Tommy, you want to talk a little bit about that now, or I can just sort of recap the meeting. But I'm really excited about the direction that we're moving, and I hope that you will agree. So we have a couple of challenges ahead of us. One is that, as you know, from approving the 24-25 budget, that we are, when we get to the fall, which is going to be here before you know it, and start looking at the 25-26 budget process, we are facing some real challenges, and that part of our 24-25 budget has a carryover in order to balance the budget, which we do not expect to have in the subsequent years. So we do need to really look at how we're funded. We're sort of coming up against some real challenges here. Also, with the sort of downturn in the market, we do, and the fact that we do calculate our endowment draw on a 12-quarter rolling average. Even if the market starts improving, we're going to be dropping off some very high numbers, which is going to continue to show a down turn in what we can draw. So we are expecting even a lower draw, 5% draw for the 25-26 budget when we start working on that. So that being said, we've also been talking about the municipal, or the way that we're funded is not sustainable, and we're now seeing that come to fruition, but it absolutely is not. So the committee has been working. We had our third meeting. I've been putting together a lot of data, all kinds of statistics on funding, on the endowment, on municipal contributions back to when the towns started contributing in 1965, comparisons with other libraries, per capita comparisons, all kinds of data over the years. And I've been compiling this data for some time, and then doing a lot more recently. So that was all part of the plan, some of the actions in the plan. So, and then forming this committee, which we did. And so we now have a sort of a plan to get to sort of take the pulse of the board on some options for moving forward. And that's really what we talked about quite a bit in our last meeting. So what the committee is now working on is coming up with some different funding scenarios that we want to present to the board and get your feedback on. We don't know if it's going to be a ranking system, or we'll give you like stickies and you'll put them on on a sheet and say which ones you support, which ones you don't. We still have to figure out how that's going to work, but we really need to get some ideas from the board about what you support and what you don't, so that we can move forward with some ideas. So that's what we're working on now. We're working on coming up with specific scenarios and data to support those different scenarios. And
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
Maybe Tommy can answer this too, is that in the report, it talked about we're seeing a $100,000 budget deficit in 25-26.
Right, that's a
And I was-
combination.
I was
yeah.
just wondering what the calculations were involved in
So
arriving
that's,
that figure.
I think almost all of that can be accounted for by the decrease in the amount we'll be able to take from the endowment.
Mhm.
And the fact that we're not gonna have this carry forward from a
Yeah.
prior year. So that's most of it. And
Okay,
Right.
okay.
Am I right that one of the possibilities might be that we as the trustees have the power to change the rules about the percentage that we draw from the endowment?
Mhm.
And that
Yeah.
could be attendance.
Yeah, that's gonna be, so that's going to be one of the scenarios. We're gonna be talking, we're gonna be presenting
Sure.
a whole bunch of different scenarios, to really get the pulse of the board and to find out
Okay.
what you support and what you don't. So that's, the direction we're moving, and then, the next piece is we've made some real progress on the patron survey. So we are going to be launching a patron survey, during National Library Week. So I don't have all the particulars yet. We're still working very hard on the questions, but we know it's not going to be a lengthy survey. But but we are focused on, one of the areas that we're focused on is where people are getting information about the library and also where they're getting information about other community events so that we can sort of, because that's one big part of even of the plan is, where people, how we communicate, how we let people know about what's going on at the library and how they're finding out about things unrelated to the library, but areas, places that we're not necessarily advertising that we need to be. So we're working on probably about a 10 to 12 with sub sort of set survey questions right now. And then, but our goal is to have that go out during National Library Week, but we'll
Which
be
is when?
April.
7th through the 14th, I think.
Okay,
It won't just be a week long, but we'll
Yeah.
launch it during
right,
that.
right.
And then we will, we're, once we have the survey ready, we'll have lots of ways that people can take it on paper. We'll get it into town halls. We'll get it, disseminated all throughout.
Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, we'll ask for volunteers to help us with, so we'll social media, we'll get it out there. We'll spread it out there and hope, and so that's moving along. One of the other things we're doing, which I really like, we're asking people in the survey if they would be willing to be part of a focus group. So that's one other element to the is focus groups. So that's we're looking at different ways that we can get people involved in focus groups, and that's just one. So
Okay. So when you've got the text close to the final questions in, will the board see that next month, or how do you plan to, I mean, not that we have to, I just wondering where,
we
because
so
this sounds like it's tentative right now.
it's
The survey,
well, it's tentative in that we're still finalizing I mean, we're
Yeah.
still, we're still wordsmithing the questions. So yeah, I mean, I'm happy to share it. I don't know.
because we're
When we feel that it's, that it's as close to being as we want it. We're
Yeah.
still not there yet, but as
Okay.
soon as we are, I will send it on
Yeah.
out for feedback, certainly.
feedback, I mean, it is your prerogative to do it, but I'm just curious
Oh,
to
of course,
see
yeah,
what you come up with. in
Yeah.
the final
absolutely.
form.
Yeah, we're just not
It's-
there yet. We're
Yeah,
still,
okay.
because we don't want it to be so long, every question and every word is extremely important. So we're just,
Sure.
trying to.
So, it sounds like you're gonna try to disseminate it widely, or are you gonna target it all, or how?
No, widely to everywhere we can possibly get it. Right, not just for people that, have computers or you could use computers, but we wanted to get it in town offices. We want, so I'll probably be asking you to drop a, paper copies off in your town office and, everywhere that we can think of, we'll ask, the town website administrators to put the link to the survey, we'll do all of our, marketing things that we do to get it out, social media. We haven't even made a list yet of it. That's the next thing is how, we're gonna get it out.
School?
Is there a specific sort of objective? Like, is this focused on a particular subject area, or is it about library programming generally? Or is it-
No,
what-
we did kind of come up with an objective. It's part of it is, yeah, in fact, we talked about this was the goal, and then our goal, we sort of turned it in. One of the goal is finding out how people hear about that's one, finding out how people hear about the library. one of the things we want to know is what it's really hard with surveys because we don't want to ask leading questions because we don't want to ask things about what we can, like, do you like this? Do you not like this?
Right.
But we are asking questions about resources like digital resources versus physical resources because we do have limited funds and we want to sort of know where to put our funds. We're asking about what just left me, refresh my memory.
Their services, and we ask, like, we're asking questions for them to say, how much do you value our books, our digital resources, our, spaces, our, private study rooms, all of that stuff will all be included. So it'll be spaces, services, and programs, I think.
We're also asking like almost like a strategic question, like, so we're asking, what would be your dream library? Like, how would patent-free, if patent-free could be your dream library, what would that look like? So we kind of want to get an idea of what's missing. So we don't want to ask leading questions like, do you like
Yeah.
this? Do you like, it's more of,
No yes or no's. is what
right,
we're
no
trying to
yes or
avoid.
no's. We want comments.
Will you have any sense from the respondents of which towns they're
Yeah,
from?
yeah, good, I'm glad you brought that up. We are asking specific town and also, instead of asking your age, we decided to do a household question. Do you have, because we were looking at other library surveys and seeing what we liked and didn't like. So we've done a lot of that. We're asking, do you have children in your household? Rather than, because that doesn't really capture the demographic if you've got a family, so that's how we're doing the demographics, but we are asking town. That's important. So yes.
And who's meeting to do this?
Oh, gosh.
All the department heads.
All the department heads, basically.
And Laurel.
And Laura, yes.
Yeah.
And then at various times, so
and
people are on
Elizabeth and-
vacation
yeah.
and in and out, and so, yeah.
Okay, great. We look forward to seeing. It
Yeah.
all sounds really interesting. We'll see it in.
Yep, as soon as we
Blackboard,
have it,
so to
I'll
speak.
send it around,
Yeah.
as soon as we feel that it's,
Yeah,
coded
okay.
enough. So those are the two big updates since the last,
Okay.
and some of these other things, well.
Okay, I had a couple questions, Leslie. One is the much anticipated final confirmation regarding line 8 of Form 990.
Okay, I have it here. So, yeah, I called our, I called our CPA and talked to Bill Brewer's son. His son works there. Frank Brewer, Fred Brewer, there's another Brewer, at least one. So anyway, and he explained to me, so I can explain to you exactly what the difference is. So it is the biggest difference from, and I did not write down the number. So last year's line 8 was higher than, not last year,
No.
21-22 was higher than 22-23. And the reason being is our endowment contributions were down $37,000. So it's about an $80,000 difference if I'm not mistaken. We also, so a lot of it was project where we received the money in the previous year, but then we spent it. So we weren't getting any more money in. So one of those was the Windows restoration project where we had received like $20,000, but then we got a small ARPA grant, we got a family place grant, we got probably the last of the Merry Meeting Bay Trust grant for $5,000. We had gotten a juvenile programming grant for $1,200. So those were the things, but primarily the almost $40,000 was endowment money, gifts to the endowment that we received that particular year. So basically was endowment and then special projects grants.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Then my other question I had was, this was maybe been covered in the Building and Technology Committee report, but the difference in cost between the funding money available under the ARPA grant for the AV upgrade versus the entire cost of the project. I know you've gotten 2 quotations now, right?
Yeah.
And the monthly report talks about in general, but the Building and Technology Committee, I think, gave some specific figures. I wasn't sure if those were final figures or whether we're still waiting to get
I'd have to look at that building and tech report to see what.
Yeah, well, the question I have is just how much, what's the cost difference between the ARPA money available for the AV upgrade versus the project cost?
I haven't fully calculated it. So basically what happened was we sort of allocated, the buckets we had were 50,000 for the entrance work, the ADA entrance work, 25,000 for the pods and 25,000 for the AV upgrades in the community room. Well, we didn't spend all that on the pod, so we're going to use more for the AV.
Right.
So we only spent, we spent about 19,000 on the pod, so we're going to use the difference for the AV. So that brings it up to about, so I don't know exactly, so if we had 6 plus, it's about 31.
Yeah,
Somewhere around 31 then for the AV. And I think the quotes, Dean, correct me if I'm wrong, they're somewhere between 43 and there's a quote for 43 and 51.
That is correct.
Okay.
okay, yeah.
So either way, but yeah, so those are the numbers we're looking at right now.
Because we're talking about using capital reserve to cover the.
Right, I am still trying to work on getting to bridge that gap a little bit. I'm actually talking to the coastal Maine broadband people about maybe a small grant for the assistive technology part of it. And so there'll be a donor I'm talking to as well. So it may not be quite that gap. I'm not sure yet.
Okay,
Yeah, so I was wondering about grant possibility.
Right, the thing is though is
Difference.
that if I don't, grants take a long time to apply for, and these quotes are only good for so long. So if I have to wait months out, these are kind of things that I can get quickly. If I'm gonna have to wait and apply for a grant, I'm not gonna have time. The quotes aren't gonna hold.
right,
And one of the other things is we're so desperate for these upgrades. We've noticed even with I don't want to go into detail here, but even with the town history series, we had some technical issues, which will be absolutely resolved when we get these upgrades. They're way past due. I mean, this, this will go away.
yeah, Mary Kate's.
Yeah, so we are so desperate for those upgrades.
Okay.
So.
All right, are there any other questions for Leslie? Yes. How about the rest of the staff monthly report? I have one question for Elizabeth, which is not here, the response training. Alice, what is Alice stand?
Oh, yeah, in fact, I'm gonna send you all, I was gonna invite, anyone is welcome to come, that's the,
Active shooter.
they call it violent intruder
Yeah.
now.
Oh, they do?
Yeah,
to
it's
take away
Alice
the
training,
gun
we've
piece.
had it
Okay,
before,
that's
and I
what I
will
thought.
send out an email, because any one of you are welcome to
Yeah.
attend the meeting. So that instead of our regular, it's our all staff meeting, so
Right.
that's what we're having for our next all staff meeting is
When is that,
Alice
Leslie?
training,
Next
26th,
the 26th, so it's a couple weeks away.
26th and
So,
5:15.
yeah, I will send out, I'll send out the notice that Elizabeth sent to staff so that any of you are welcome to attend.
Okay. Just curious, it's an acronym I didn't know, not that I need
More.
no more acronyms. And then one other question I had, is there a time limit on the pod usage per person? I couldn't tell when I went online whether you can,
2 hours.
is it, okay,
Mhm.
thought that was it, but wasn't
Mhm.
sure, okay. All right, are there any other questions about the staff report? Shall we move on then? Building and technology. Finance, there was no meeting, although we essentially had a finance report meeting and we had ad hoc group. Friends? Hope they get their leaks fixed. And governance, Steve may or may not be able to make it here today. I think we talked about under new business, we'll talk about having the special corporator meeting, which is something that came out of the governance committee recommendation. Policy and personnel. We have the material selection policy under new business.
Yeah, there'll be a little bit more of an overview of that. We did touch on, there's a group study room policy. We did not have time to go into that in more detail. That may be turning into a procedure. There was quite a bit of, it came at the end of the meeting, so that's something we need to. Future. It's kind of, as the pods arrive, it's this whole reservation, so they're sort of looking into the process of how the procedure is gonna work, and there may be a need for having a policy that maybe incorporates those spaces, but that would be for a future time.
Okay.
That's, this procedure will take the place of the current policy at this point, and that does not require trustee.
I had a question about the building technology report. Is there a new projected date where we will have a project cost breakdown? If it's not gonna be at the end, if it wasn't gonna be at the end of January, when's it gonna be?
Karen does not know. I do know that EMC, as of still recently, has been in the building. I think a couple weeks ago, they
It was
spent,
last week.
was it last
Yep.
week? They spent a good part of a day. I know what they're working on. They're working on, it's the old part of their building. And they're trying to figure out how to, with the least disruption to the way that the old part looks, getting these, heat pumps and things like that and other infrastructure, into the spaces. So I think that's kind of what the holdup has been, but I don't know when, I don't have a final date for when they're gonna have that to us. And I sort of am not, I'm sort of torn about that. I'm sort of I'm on the fence because in some way it gives us time to work on these other things that we're doing, like the capital campaign feasibility study, which is an important piece. So
So that's why I asked. I mean, the timing is gonna play a big role in how it all plays out.
so I in some ways I feel like that them taking a little more time is not a bad thing.
Probably.
So, but I do not have a date.
I mean, it's not gonna be like a month. It's probably gonna be a few months.
I don't know. I don't think so, but I can't imagine being a few
I-
months, but I couldn't even begin to venture. I mean,
Since they have projected the end of January
Mhm.
originally, I'm thinking that it'll be sooner rather than later.
right, I do too.
But
I'm thinking,
How soon, sooner?
I mean, maybe, I wouldn't be surprised if it's by the end of February, but it could go into early March, but I can't imagine it would be past March. But I'm really guessing.
Treasurer's report.
Here it is.
Succinct.
It looks like the other half of it.
I know.
It is.
As you can see, we collaborated on it.
Yeah.
So the amount of the endowment as of yesterday is $8,336,584.23. And then looking at the P&L for December, everything's really on target. Did anybody have any questions? Anything happen to stick out?
What was the endowment contribution under other income
We had
this
an
month?
an
Is that
endowment
a-
gift.
We had an,
We had an endowment gift.
Okay, was that an individual?
Yes.
Oh, nice, okay, thank you.
thank you for answering that question. Leslie, did you have anything to add to that?
I really did.
Anything?
I mean, and the cash report looks good. I mean, you're talking
Oh,
about-
yeah, that's right, yeah, P&L looks good, cash looks good, everything's pretty much trending on target to what it should be. There really isn't anything that sticks out, everything is, where it should be.
Yeah.
Or where it usually is, I guess it might be the better way to put it.
And I think the only thing I would note too, when you look at the cash report is, as we're spending more, a little bit more of the capital reserve, that amount, the gap is getting smaller between what's actually in the savings and what we've allocated for capital reserve. So that's,
Yeah, and just a reminder on that, that's the difference between the actual amount in the capital reserve saving, which is 108, and then the capital reserve itself, which is 122,000. I think that's all we got.
Are there any questions? No? Development?
Don't
Well,
have a
her
public
report's
hearing.
much longer than mine.
I absolutely have. Okay, the annual fund as of today is at $109,044, $109,044. Sorry. And there's another $5,322 in open pledges, and I think that entire amount is related to the board.
All but $300. Yeah.
Okay, so you will be getting a reminder board members at the table who have made a pledge from Samantha soon, just to remind you that that pledge should be paid in full by the end of the fiscal year. Since it's February, we're doing the Love Your Library promotion now, and carts are available at both circulation desks. They cost $5 each. So far, this has raised $50 and the goal is $100, so halfway there.
Okay.
So if you have a moment, stop by one of the desks, buy a heart, you can write a little note on it, why you love your library, why you love your librarian, all those things. The feasibility study, 15 to 20 hours a week are spent working on this. I'm assuming that's Samantha and
Yeah.
Leslie, yes.
Yeah.
2 interviews have been completed, 8 more are scheduled, and 5 more to schedule. Prospect research is underway, working through the gift range chart to identify donors for the various levels.
What was that? I couldn't.
That's all right.
It's already done. That's okay. That's
Which part, the whole
Oh,
thing?
yes, no.
Gift range chart,
A
I think
gift
that was
range. Oh, so you mentioned it in your.
It's in the Kate statement, I think you'll
Right.
see, yeah, like how many
Okay,
people,
yes.
yeah.
which is in the board packet, the
Yeah.
case statement.
No, I did see that.
Oh, yeah.
Moving on to the
Yeah.
business appeal, the mailing went out in January, and if you are stewarding the businesses that were targeted in January, you will get probably a note from Samantha asking you to follow up with those prospects on your stewardship list. One new business from the mailing, Pine Tree Engineering, still needs a steward. So if anyone here has any connections to Pine Tree,
They're the
Engineering,
ones that are working on the
front entrance.
front entrance, so, yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
with the
It's
city
their
too,
first,
yeah.
yeah, too, so this is the first new donor.
So look for more information from that if you are stewarding any of those businesses. The spelling bee, the information for the event is now on the website and team registration is open.
I'm gonna solicit all the teams, I forgot to put that in there, I'm gonna
And-
solicit everybody who did it last year, because so many of them were like, do it again, so I'm counting on them. I've already talked to Barbara.
Is there a team already? One team?
No.
Oh, I thought I saw
Team,
names.
yes. Okay.
Oh.
No.
May I ask a quick question? Is there like a flyer or a graphic made up for that? Because if there is, we'd like
Yeah.
to share it.
Yeah, I've already put it on the chamber calendar, but at that point I didn't have the poster,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'll send it over so
Yeah,
you
send
guys
it
can,
to us.
yep,
We'll get it.
yep, I just finished those today.
Next, May 10th.
May 10th at the Maritime Museum.
We'll wait a little while till it goes out, but oh,
Yeah,
Maritime
yeah.
Museum, how exciting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ooh, moving on up.
Move there. Well, I have an in with the tech person, so I know that they have the technology we need.
It's a good.
There is a committee of 4 volunteers helping Samantha collect raffle basket items and putting up posters, but more the merrier. So if anyone is feeling like they want to be involved in that, please let Samantha know. There is going to be a scoop-a-thon at Gelato Fiasco on March 5th. And if you've never been to one of these before, 75% of all purchases will go to the PFL as long as the people buying the gelato mention specifically that they are there supporting the library. And there's going to be some celebrity scoopers, including Leslie and Mary Randall. And we're not allowed to do our own solicitation at that fundraiser, so it's all about the gelato. So spread the news. There'll be Facebook posts.
We
other
can't
social
put out
media
a
posts.
table or anything like that. We can't ask people there, and it's really important. They say, we won't fundraise for you. So if they don't say this is for PFL, you don't get it.
Oh,
So we really, and we saw our numbers drop a little bit the last few times, and I'm thinking that might be what
Can I wear a
it is.
PFL t-shirt or can I not wear it?
Yeah, I think you
Okay.
can. You just can't get strangers to come in and be like, oh, say you support the library.
I can wear PFL t-shirt.
Yeah.
Okay.
March 5th is the date.
March.
What day of the week is that? I didn't.
I never.
Is that
It's a
the-
Tuesday.
Tuesday, I
is
think,
the
yeah.
Primary.
Is that the entire business?
Oh, it
day?
is
It's
the
not-
primaries, you're
not-
right.
It's
Yeah.
not, it's restricted hours, right? It's there.
11/11.
11,
The
okay.
whole time. Yeah,
Okay.
the only restrictions will be on the bottom of all the flyers. You'll see they have certain things that you can and can't buy, but for the most
That
part,
won't
it's
copy
pretty
it.
much everything. And I'll have little handouts all around the library and posters so people can grab a handout. That's another thing. They can just show them the handout, the Facebook page or event on the website, anything that just says this is for the library. And they did increase it. It was only 50% that we got last time. So
Yeah, that's
they've
what I
gone Up
thought.
to 75%.
Oh, 70.
Yeah,
They're
they're doing
good
well.
people, those folks.
Mhm.
They are.
So yeah, so definitely put that on your calendar. It's easy money for the library, so it's a win-win. That's it. My report.
Town and various school activities.
The school librarians are focused on the holiday and cultural events that happen in February. This month, I believe, is Black History Month. And at the elementary level, students are getting ready for Battle of the Books that will happen next month, and that's all fourth through sixth graders.
What is that?
It's like a quiz type competition, so they prepare by reading a lot of books and then meeting together in small groups and talking about what they read, and so that they can remember details, and then they have quizzes during this competition, and they're broken up into teams. And the winning teams, everybody gets a gift certificate to the bookstore downtown for participating, and then the winning team gets a slightly larger gift certificate.
It's very competitive between the towns. Like the kids get really caught up in it.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have to say, if you've never been, it's really something to walk into one of the school gymnasiums and see a couple of hundred, kids, all very competitive, very excited about reading and showing off how much they retain. There's a lot of energy. It's
Yeah, where are you
it's
gonna
really-
see that? And then, sounds great.
Yeah.
And the superintendent is usually the MC. I don't know if he's still been doing that, but
Start that to seniors.
I'm just thinking, that might be good for me. That's fine.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, other town activities, school activities.
West Bath's the last of the towns at your top, so I'll put question.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Saturday morning.
All right. Leslie, correct me, I'm like out of procedure now for our new rotational rep. Does she get?
Well, she's just observing tonight because
What's the appointment though? Is the
it's
city?
tonight.
Oh,
it's
it's
tonight, so she's
select board is
The
meeting tonight.
select board is, the Georgetown Select Board.
meeting
is
tonight,
meeting
so she's,
tonight.
right, so she's
So
not
she's not, Lauren isn't official yet.
until next.
Okay.
month.
Well,
Right.
First, I thought, since it's coincided with the meeting,
Yes.
do you expect any opposition?
They're in the dark. I haven't heard a word.
Okay.
She's a cheerleader for me, so
Okay.
I'm taking her word for it.
Yeah, I don't think you have too much competition.
Okay. All right, well, we're welcome to the next meeting, it'll be. Well, to see that I can feel official, yeah. Okay, let's move on to the capital campaign feasibility study update. We've heard some of that
Yeah,
already.
you've heard actually most of it, so we've been working, especially Samantha, very, very hard with Rebecca. We have had weekly meetings. We are in the interview stage, and Carl was our guinea pig. He went first, which was very nice of Carl, and that went very well. And so we are scheduling. We've had 2 interviews Rebecca's on vacation this week And I'm out a few days next week, but when we come back, we have 2 back-to-back days of 3 interviews each day, so we have
And another interview
another
that
one.
week. So
we have 7
7.
one week, right? So,
They're an hour and a half each.
yeah,
So a lot of
so we're
Just
working
give
on.
An example of like the kind of people that are being interviewed, not necessarily their names, but just. like-
So we're interviewing people, our larger donors, community leaders, foundations, people, community leaders, people that have connections in the community. So those are the types of people that we're meeting
some of
with.
the capital campaign committee members.
Right, that potential capital campaign committee members, so we have many different reasons for wanting, and the questions are very varied, so we're not just looking for people with deep pockets, however, that's, but we are looking for people who might be able to make suggestions about people that might make a good committee member, or people that might be willing to talk about or serve on the committee, or might be able to give us names of people that might be interested in this project, or just, all kinds of reasons, or just their take on this campaign and the reaction to the various projects that we're looking at doing. So, it's been interesting so far, but again, we've only had 2 interviews and most of them are to come. So what's gonna happen is after the interviews, then also Samantha's working with Rebecca to review like the processes for how we do things now, right?
Organizational readiness.
The
Yeah.
right. And then, as we talked about before, Rebecca will be making a report to the board at a later date. We don't know exactly when. We have to complete our interviews. Depends on how long that takes. We're still scheduling some. And so it might be a special meeting of the board. We're just gonna have to see how that plays out. So, but it is moving along, but it is very time consuming.
Did all of you have a chance to read the case statement that was included?
Yes,
That was
it's
nice.
Okay,
impressive. I
Yeah.
wanted to comment on that.
Yeah.
I guess Samantha, were you the key person or?
Yeah, I designed it
it's-
with input from everybody, but
Yeah.
It was a lot
It's
of
the
work.
That was
hidden
a
talents I
lot.
found I had.
Yeah.
Like I might have a
So-
side gig.
So that when we did the case statement, we each had like sections to write. And so like I wrote the introduction section and the sort of the highlights, and Elizabeth had a part, Samantha had a part. And then Samantha and we wordsmithed the heck out of this
So
and
much.
kept, and even like Carl gave us some great feedback, and Samantha took it all and put it into Canva in a nice,
Mhm.
the layout that
Yeah, it's very attractive
yeah,
as
that's
well.
Samantha.
Yeah.
So,
I wanted to ask one question, which I did during my interview, and it reflects my personal views, and I'm not sure how the rest of the trustees feel about it, or Leslie and the other employees, but I had a little hesitation, and as I expressed, about showcasing or putting out front the library as a warming or cooling center, since that's sort of moving into new territory for the library as an institution. But I don't know how you all feel about that. I mean, a lot of things would have to happen. There's certainly be some infrastructure demands, how to manage that. And presumably, one would hope that the city would assist with that logistically and hopefully financially, if the library becomes a point for that, serves that function as well. And of course, there'll be space issues and, maybe even security at some point. So I think it's a fairly big step. Maybe I'm exaggerating what would be involved, but at minimum, I would say keep that in your minds. We haven't really discussed that as a policy, as a stance to go forward. That's something a function or a new role for the library. And I think we should keep that in mind. And see if we haven't made any commitments. This is prospective, of course, but I don't know. Do any of you have any thoughts about that at this point?
Yeah, I noticed that.
Mhm.
And I thought, I noticed it said for the future.
Mhm.
But I thought we're clearly, I mean, we don't have we close down if we lose power. I mean, we don't have a generator at this point. And our poor staff suffers in the summer because we don't have any AC. So it seemed, doable for some time in the future. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it, but it did sort of stand out to me as, oh, this is really ambitious when, you know, we don't even have AC or a generator. I don't know if it being in there sets up any expectation. I don't know.
I guess, the question I would have is, how does this affect our fundraising? If you have the focus on the library as as in effect, not the library, but something else, does that affect our fundraising? And that's, to me, is the bottom line. Does it need to be smoothed over? What was the reaction by Rebecca
So what?
to the statement? It's primarily
don't see any
the second paragraph.
Heating
Well,
and cooling. center.
We removed it from the,
Yeah,
it's not in there anymore.
it's not in the bullets, but it still is under energy upgrades, the last paragraph.
Oh, did we not remove it?
It's in the first page here. I mean, it's in the first page here. Or
Where?
is that changed?
It's
That's different than what
changed. It's on that we've updated.
I'm looking at the one that you guys got and I don't see it in here.
Yeah, what's on the Google Drive?
Yeah.
We've been, that's what the thing about this,
We
the,
changed it to
this
here.
case statement is it's still a work in progress because it's the feasibility
But the
study, like,
one they got is this one and it doesn't have it in there.
Yeah.
right, so what's on the,
I just looking at what you sent out the other
Yeah,
day.
where though, is what I'm saying, is I don't see it. I see we envision the library as an accessible community hub and a comfortable place during extreme weather conditions. Where, that's the one in that paragraph.
so what's on the
Yeah, so I'm
Google
not-
Drive is the latest version.
Yeah, I don't see it.
If
Because
you're-
we did have it in there when we met
Right.
with Carl and we
Right.
took that out because we hadn't made a definitive of
Right.
whether or not.
Okay,
So those
I don't
people
see
that
it now.
are on the capital campaign committee have seen earlier versions of it, which have different language. And this is still probably gonna change. I mean, it's sort of a living document. That's why we're getting the feedback from Carl and other people. So it doesn't say that anymore. We've
Okay.
taken that language out.
Oh.
So, but what's on the Google Drive doesn't have that language unless we missed a spot.
I looked for it just now and I thought I was going insane.
Yeah, no, it's
Cause I
not there.
couldn't find it.
Yeah,
so-
it's not there. We, after your
Put
our
on both
meeting with
counts.
Carl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, after our meeting with Carl, we
Okay.
removed it and
And,
what I
yeah, we
shared with the
softened
board
The language.
Yeah.
Yeah,
doesn't
thought-
have it,
yeah. So it still like alludes to,
yeah.
right?
And I
You
saw
know.
that the bullet had come out about it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So,
maybe
yeah, it doesn't have that anymore.
Yes, you take it.
Why did you see it?
So again, yeah, this isn't gonna be in stone. This is not what like
Okay.
our final.
It's
we're
a
still in-
Working, living document.
Yeah, once
Right.
if we move into a capital campaign, this will actually probably have a few more pages added to it. That'll be more story and narrative.
Okay.
This
There'll be more
yeah.
Did you
tweaking.
envision it being a printed document?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Okay,
One thing that struck me as something I was stumbling over, that I'm sure we'll be talking more about, but just it's hard to say it without sounding wonky, but the why now section where we're talking about the market shifting down and affecting our draw, and I can see a lot of people stumbling over that and not, what do you mean by that? You know, if you're not explaining the whole endowment
That's
draw
part of
thing,
the
it's-
interview
Yeah.
process.
When
is
we
that
interview
is-
you, you'll have
yeah.
a chance to tell us all about.
That
it.
is specifically a question,
Right.
like, you know, that is part of it, is part of what we're doing now is saying, here's this case statement. how does it sound? Is it confusing? Is it
Right.
clear?
What's
Is
gonna
it so?
resonate? What's gonna
Yeah.
I mean, I
confuse it?
know what you're trying to say
Right.
because.
So far, it's been
Right.
fine for
Come
the
to these
two
meetings.
interviews.
But so that's exactly the thing. So we read this and if you've got comments, that's great. And a few of you may be interviewed, but this is a working document. We
This is a
know
this is a starting place.
it's a
Yeah.
starting place.
Yeah.
We know this is gonna
Yeah.
change some,
Okay.
and that's
Mhm.
part of the process. So we aren't even, this is not,
Mhm.
you know, and Carl's comments were terrific, and that's what we're, what we're
I think you
wanting.
did yourself a disservice by making it look so clean and designed, because it looks like it.
Right,
like it's
that's what
Yeah,
Rebecca
right.
wanted us to do.
You might want to dirty it up. a
Yeah.
bit.
I will
Put some
comment
fingerprints
that
on there.
Rebecca
Or
said
say no.
normally this is done way in advance and takes months and months and months, and often places hire somebody to do a case statement.
Well,
So we did it in 2 weeks.
But.
well,
In person.
Yeah.
Without hiring somebody,
Yeah.
so we really,
So, but what we do realize right through this process is, again, it's still,
Mhm.
there's still tweaking. So, right, when we want to hear, there are things that we know are gonna need to be.
okay, great. Well, that's great to talk about it now. and
Yeah,
we'll have
so
a
when
chance
you
to talk
see,
about
just
it.
know, and if you see something
Yeah, I
that's
think that
confusing,
overall,
please let us know.
pretty polished.
Very
already.
fancy.
Yeah.
Okay. Then on to new business. Before we go to the material selection policy, I just wondered if we could do this one additional thing about having the special discuss or decide on a special corporators meeting. Call that to discuss the results of the corporator survey. That was the recommendation of the governance committee. If you're amenable to that, are there questions about doing that? We were thinking that sometime in March, as I recall, wasn't it, Leslie, from the discussion?
Yeah, on Monday, at the governance
Yeah.
committee had thrown out a couple of Mondays, just because that's the day with tax aid and other things, it's hard to schedule another evening.
Okay. So that could be. Well, 4th, 11th, 18th, 25th. Those are the. I had it down technically as to be confirmed, I had it down as the 25th, which is basically a month, a little more than a month. But that's not written in stone. Well, there were some reasons, was it Steve's availability, something that.
Yes, Steve said he could be, so I don't know who's going to be leading the discussion. Steve said he preferred the 18th, but I think he could do either the 18th or the 25th. Those were the dates we'd sort of thrown around as possibilities of the governance.
It's
committee.
also around the time that we'll be doing the special meeting for the feasibility study. She has it as maybe March 11th.
I don't think we'll be
with a
ready
meeting
then
day.
because.
Maybe
got
we have an interview
interviews
on
now.
that.
Yeah, that's gonna be.
But it
fun.
might be.
Yeah.
Okay.
But so those were dates that were discussed.
Would it be a hybrid meeting where we could zoom in if they wanted?
I don't see why not.
Yeah, I would say so.
I don't see why we couldn't.
Technology issues.
Does
We
did
just-
Steve prefer the 18th? Leslie? Is that
He
your-
said he preferred the 18.
Okay. Does that work? Since you're all corporators as well, so does it work for you guys too?
I'm away at that time.
Okay. Michael, you? Yep. Okay. So we do it usually at 6. Yeah. Okay, let's. That's acceptable, we'll go ahead with that. Minus,
Is that gonna be the one agenda item? Will be presented?
well. We've been talking about the status of the treasurer. It's tied up in the bylaws and the fact that the treasurer is sort of a half in, half out type position. That
How you
incumbent
like it,
is
right?
Pleasure to be here.
there's an officer that doesn't vote.
Is that a bylaw change?
That's a bylaw change.
Yeah.
Yes. And only the corporation.
You don't have to
Bylaws
take it
to give notice of a potential change.
Right. So so the bylaws say that the bylaws say the board has to vote to hold the meeting. So we have to take this as a vote that everybody, and then we can, if you're gonna have a bylaw change or any kind of voting at this meeting, you have to announce it in the agenda. That goes out at least 10 days in advance of the
That's right.
meeting.
So,
And we've got a governance committee meeting on Tuesday, so.
Yeah.
there'll be some discussion.
Yeah.
okay.
So someone will have to pick up that piece of the notice of the meeting then. If we want to change the treasurer's ability to vote.
Right, so then you'll have to suggest, like, that'll, right, I'll have to go out with a notice,
Right.
Yeah.
that action item, right?
Is it 10 business days or just 10 days?
I have to look at the bylaw, yeah, I think you've got a copy of the bylaws, and they're online too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to I'll look and see tomorrow whether it's this
Okay.
10 business days or 10 days, I'm not sure.
Just gave a
I like to
question.
get it out sooner than later,
Very important question.
even if I'm just sending the notice, like I will just say kind of a save the date, and then I'll can send the agenda, but I'd rather just sort of save the date almost, so.
All right. So we still have to, well, we have the governance committee next
Tuesday.
Tuesday. Okay,
Tuesday.
yeah,
So we gotta take a vote though, an official vote.
they have the special meeting on March 18th. Is there a motion to hold the special corporators meeting? Michael has made a motion. Is there a second? Tommy? All right, all in favor, so say aye. Okay, done.
What time? Oh, we haven't quite set that yet.
I think it's
Six.
6.
Six.
The bylaws
Six is
said
the
it.
usual.
Well, I think you can set it, if it's a special meeting, you can set it whatever time, but,
But I think that's generally a convenient time.
okay.
Okay. All right. And finally, materials selection policy.
So I thought I would just start this. This is another one where there was a lot of markup on the,
Yeah,
but a lot of it was really just consolidating and making the language clearer. And so did include a couple of the things in the minutes.
Mhm.
So I don't know that they're really that important to go through line by line, so I was gonna certainly open it up to questions, but I think I was gonna turn it over to Leslie, because I thought it's just an important area to kind of know.
Yeah.
It is such a big part of what the library does. And I think calling attention particularly to the statement of concern about library resources, because that's,
Yes.
yeah, not a big change, but
It doesn't say
it's just an
business
important
days.
area, it's a pretty hot button topic.
okay.
So Leslie, I don't know if you wanted to elaborate further.
Yeah, sure. So we had a group of us, so I had arranged a meeting with all of the selectors. And when I say selectors, that are people that choose materials for library patrons, and selectors are made up of library staff only. And that's actually in the policy. It does describe who the selectors are. So we met to review the policy, and the last time the board approved the policy, I think was the end of 2021. So it was, we try to review policies every couple of years. In the last two iterations, I looked at previous drafts. So the last two times we reviewed, we did a lot of tightening up of this selection policy. So this go around, it was more just reviewing language. There's not a lot of substantive, I can never say that word, changes, but not a lot of content changes, but just a lot of just, sort of clarifying languages, tightening up language, and we moved a few things around into the section on the statement of concern about library resources and the paragraph leading up to that. There were some things that were in part in the selection area, which were really more about statement of concern. If somebody wants to express concern about something that we have in the library. So more importantly, I think the really important part to me of this exercise is, especially in this current climate that we're in, is making sure that the board is aware that we have a policy, and sort of, and to read the policy, to understand it, and to really understand our process for the statement of concern. We've had, since I've been director, which I've been here 14 years, we've had 3 people complete a statement of concern form. And in all cases, we have a committee, so we have a committee that meets. So we have a very tight procedure for how we handle it, and it's worked out very, very well in all cases. So I do take it very, very seriously when somebody does fill out that form. They get notified immediately by me that we have received it. I give them, we don't just ignore them, we give them a date, by which they'll hear back. The committee meets, we read reviews, we look at, who else owns, the book. We have conversations about it. We talk about what else we have in the collection on particular topics. So we do a thorough analysis of whatever it is. And then we write, we make a decision, write a letter. And I then reach out to the person that completed the form, and then if they want to meet with me and have a further discussion, then we go from there. And so far that's not happened. But that's our policy, and it served us well. I used to live in the New Orleans area, and we had lots and lots of challenges. And so when I moved to Maine, I'd sat on lots of committees. I brought this procedure with me and adopted this for the Pat Free Library. And I felt it worked well there, and it's really worked well here. So I think it's important for the board to know what happens. Somebody asked me, well, is the board, I don't remember who, is the board involved in this process? And the answer is no, unless a patron wants to take it to a next level and they would like some board input, or they feel like, so in the process, it says, if, where does it say? Right, it's if the patron is not satisfied with it's the last page before the form, if they're not satisfied with the response, I'll arrange a meeting with the patron and determine what additional steps, if any, are necessary. So then we'll have a continued conversation about what needs to be done, if anything.
Right.
So I think what's really important is just, for the board, for you all to know how seriously we take our selections, how important this procedure is, how when we make, when we do look very closely when we make selections, all of our selectors, we have a limited, but the tricky part is as everybody knows, we have a limited amount of space, and Dawn can tell you, you have a limited amount of space and a limited amount of resources. You can't buy everything. So it is difficult when you do have to make these choices. And so we try to adhere as best we can and follow these guidelines. There's one more thing I want to kind of tell you, and I don't know if you've seen this. So, you've all seen there are been a lot of challenges out there to books like Gender Queer. And we saw that, at RSU1, and but there was recently, and I don't know, Dawn, did you see the article in the New York Times about the Blue Hill librarian, Rich Boulay, and the other end of the spectrum? So what happened was, I don't know if you saw this article, and I'll send it around tomorrow. I found it, somebody had sent a link to a copy that was not through the paywall, because we don't have New York Times online anymore, and it's not available in the print version. It's only online. I couldn't find it in the print paper, but somebody had. So if any of you know Rich Boulay, he's the director of the Blue Hill Library, and it's been there, I think, 22 years. And I do know Rich. Well, he got patrons upset with him because he accepted a book, and I'll look the title. I'll give you the title. That was on the other end of the spectrum. So there have been a lot of people that are concerned about books related to transgender, just like Gender Queer and other books like that. So this was a book that he accepted. It was a donation that represented the other side, called Irreversible Damage: The Transgender Craze Seducing Our Daughters. And it was a well-respected book. It was highly reviewed. And it was written by a journalist in 2020. And there are a few libraries that have it in Minerva. And he accepted it, and it was put on the shelves of Blue Hill Library. But it's about the other side of it, and how did this happen? How did this blow up of kids, where 30 years ago this phenomena wasn't there. So he accepted this book from a patron, put it on the shelves, and then immediately started getting criticism on the other side. So what I thought was really interesting about this article, and I hope you all read it, I will send it out, was he asked the ALA, this freaked me. I was so upset about this. He asked the Office of Intellectual Freedom for ALA's support and to send him a letter of support, and they did not respond to him at all. So this article says that they they said that they were, what was the word they used? There was internal debate about how to handle this. So, of course, there's no internal debate when they get something like genderqueer or a book that's obvious, but there's internal debate when it's on the other side. And so that was quite upsetting to me and some of the other staff I talked to is, we want to represent both sides, and it isn't always easy when it's not always, but you have, so I wrote my friend Rich and said how I supported him and that, what he did was not necessarily easy. But it is supporting both sides. And, he was very clear in this article. He doesn't necessarily agree with what it says, what the book was saying, but it's covering both sides of an issue. And I think that's, the importance of a material selection policy. It's not always what we believe.
Sure.
But I think it's why it's important to have. And so you don't hear these stories about the other side of it. You hear the stories about, the books we all, so I just think that was really interesting. But what again was upsetting to me was that the American Library Association didn't really know how to deal with that. And I think
So they
that
didn't
was
respond at all.
right.
That's
So
not
they're
okay.
gonna be, they're actually, I'm gonna be writing an email to them because I feel that they need to respond to why they didn't respond. They need to,
Yeah, they
because now
can't
this is
wait for it to
national
come.
news and they need to
sure.
respond as to why they
Why
didn't
they
support a librarian who felt that they were,
The goal is to always have a balance,
Right.
function and balanced viewpoints.
yeah.
And that was what's so surprising is that here's the professional organization that prides itself on balance of voice and position that could not respond to that.
Right.
Yeah, so
It was really disheartening.
they really did not support him and basically what the mission of the American Library Association is. So
So I feel like they let us all down. I mean, I feel really, I was upset about it for days and you can see I'm still upset about it, but it really is. So I just wanted to share that with you.
Okay.
And I will send this around tomorrow. I cut and pasted into Word, so, but I wanted to mention
Yeah.
to you about it before I sent it, so you kind of understand the context of it. But, so again, the whole point of the policy, so we did have, the group of selectors and librarians, we went through it with a fine tooth comb, we moved some things around, then our committee, also went through it with a fine tooth comb, so we don't necessarily feel like we need to wordsmith it here, but I think the important thing again is that the board's really aware of the policy
Yeah.
and just how important it is.
Well, I
for
thought it
us
was
to
a
have.
tighter language this time than the one
Yeah.
from 3 years ago.
Yeah, so
And
that's
of
really
course-
what we're just, hoping is not to wordsmith it, but just to.
Of course, I'm never one to pass up a chance. to
I know.
wordsmith.
Nice, Carl.
Actually, I have one, I think it's
It could be a typo, I mean,
substance question, might be under guidelines for selection.
okay,
The second sentence, selectors will consider materials on the basis of values, strengths, and virtues. In the previous version, it said on the basis of the materials, values, strengths, and virtues. And this one is vague, and maybe I'm overreading that, but,
I think that.
or does that, or do you mean value instead of values?
I think
I'm gonna have to look at that, if that was an edit in a,
under guidelines.
Well, this is. More.
I'll have to see what the markup looked like, if
Yeah.
something got deleted
Yeah.
accidentally
Yeah,
from
it's
there.
Under guidelines for selection, what?
So tell me where you are again?
Guidelines for selection,
Okay,
this first opening 2 sentences, second sentence. Selectors will consider materials on the basis of values, strengths, and virtues. And 2001, I think, was consider materials on the basis of the materials, values, strengths, and virtues. So it's a shade of difference.
Yeah, so that was deleted. So I do have the markup. So selectors will consider materials on the basis.
Of,
uh,
I mean, I just thought to be clear, otherwise it sounds like,
Yeah.
it sounds like the selectors' values are at play
It's,
here.
number sorry, second. sentence.
So tell me, okay,
Yeah, selectors will consider materials.
It
No,
says
sorry. it's
including
actually-
those that may be deemed controversial or objection.
I'm still not sure where you are. I don't know.
First, under guidelines for selection.
Yes,
First
Second
paragraph.
sentence.
Not one of the.
Yeah, not the number.
numbered
No,
one.
not the number.
Second sentence, not number two, second sentence.
Introductory remarks.
Basic values, strengths and virtues.
Whose values, strengths, and virtues?
Yeah, exactly.
what I'm looking at says selectors will look for the materials, values, strengths and virtues. Oh, wait. No, I'm not looking at the
No.
right thing. Okay, nope.
Yeah, the second one, the way it's reading now is selectors will consider materials on the basis of values, strengths and virtues.
Oh, I was looking at
And I
the
think
old
what was
version.
marked up is selectors will consider materials on the basis of their, or will look for the materials, values, strengths and virtues.
Well,
I think
This-
there
that's
is
better part. It
missing.
doesn't even make sense anymore.
So what if we just say selectors will consider materials on the basis of their values, strengths?
But
and
what is
virtues?
there?
Yeah.
They're the person or they're the material?
Okay, well,
Big thing was when you said, is it value signal or value?
yeah.
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 The other thing is
Oh, yeah.
materials of
Value.
values or materials value.
What?
Like the values of the material.
yeah.
Yes,
I have
or
to s-
the-
Okay,
Yes, value would be different than values.
Yeah.
okay, so
Yeah.
we'll have to see, we can fix that. I have to see
Okay.
what the markup was before we may have deleted something.
Yeah, it may have been just a result of the marking, so it-
Okay,
because otherwise,
That S, you
Yeah.
kind of remove the controversy, I think.
yeah,
okay, we'll fix that.
and I
Thank
know
you.
there's a reference to spiritual growth, which always strikes me as a little bit of overreach, but it was in the previous draft, so I'm not gonna.
Being the son of a minister.
Separation of church and state. But anyway,
I have a question. I'm probably way out of my lane here, but. so, I didn't see, apart from this, the paragraph about the history room, I didn't see any guideline that. Suggested that regional relevance matters.
For the history room?
Well, no, the history
Outside
room,
of the
the history
history
room
room.
definitely has that.
Yeah.
But what about the collection generally, like,
The old version
is,
had
is
it.
that a thing to select things that are locally relevant? Or,
Well, it's in number one, I think. Is that not specific? Goals and
maybe not, I
selection?
mean, I'm,
Particular wants
I
and
may be
needs
way
of
out
the
of my,
community.
way out of my league.
Yeah.
I'm just.
I'm
just
gonna
thinking
have to,
of-
I'm sure it's, I mean,
Well, since we're making comments on specific things, under goals in selection, number one, it says to stimulate thoughtful participation in the life of the family unit, et cetera. Participation by whom? Is it? Patient, no, there's something about that thing. Okay.
Participation with the collection, is that what it's supposed to mean?
yeah, I mean, we
I've
didn't
seen
change
by
either
the-
one, neither
by
group.
the page.
By the patron?
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's what I'm assuming, but when it kind of,
That's weird.
That item actually might answer the question I asked too, to stimulate participation in the community. Is to say that having materials that are relevant to the specific community we're in.
But I don't think they select like that, like.
Well, we want to be pretty general because there's so many areas that.
Yeah, then every person that wrote a book in Bath is gonna come in and say, it's about Bath. And so we have to have some.
No, I just mean
criteria.
things like you might have little travel books that have Maine stuff in it that,
Mhm.
you know, more than New Hampshire stuff, you know what I mean? That's really all I'm saying. It's like-
What says here, special attention will be paid to area authors and state and local history. We do say that.
Okay,
And number 8.
okay.
Oh, yeah, yes, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
maybe that covers it.
That
That
covers
covers
it.
And I think the history room paragraph covers it extremely well.
They
too.
have,
But,
right?
Yeah, so yeah, we do cover,
Yeah.
we do talk about. Yeah,
Yeah, there was discussion that the history room may separate off because it's got some unique aspects
Mhm.
of their process that. I think that'll be a goal to have it be its own policy, but this is how it stands now.
so.
Yeah.
Other than the one thing that Carl had, that we do need to clarify the guideline for selection. I mean, maybe we can look at this at the next go around,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
mean, I
like
don't
in
think there's
2
any
years,
great-
unless
No.
there's, I mean, if there's, there'll be more
Yeah.
tightening up then,
Just
if there's.
clarification.
But we will,
Wow.
we do need to fix that one because something got deleted that
Yeah.
shouldn't have been
Okay.
clearly.
The one that was done last year, but that's the current one that's in place though. You're not
It
without a
is.
policy at this point.
Oh,
Right.
yeah, no, right,
Yeah, that's
no, we're
true.
never
Yeah.
without a policy, right, this is just the
The
draft, the
21,
current,
the
the other
21,
one
yeah.
stays
Yeah.
until the board approves the new one,
Yeah.
right?
Okay,
I just have a question about the gifts. It sounds like you can accept a gift but not add it to the collection. And I just wondered why
No, where
the
do you?
library would
Hold on, let me pull up the gift.
Oh,
So, yeah,
Yeah.
but that's,
Yeah.
it's more of a selection, it's more of a, it's
Like
about,
somebody can come in and say, here, I want to give you this book. That does not mean it will get on our shelf if we accept it. It goes through a process, they look at, because
Mhm.
we're gonna take the gift. We're
Oh,
gonna
I
say,
see.
thank
Actually,
you.
we're-
Then they decide not
we're,
to.
we actually discourage, we're actually, I agree,
Yeah.
Yeah.
we're discouraging taking donations.
Mhm.
It
Yeah.
says only in circumstances, we really want donations to all go to the bookstore. We really don't want
Yeah.
to take
Yeah,
gifts, so that's why we
uh-huh.
say in special circumstances. We really don't want to accept books. It's
Mhm.
really only if it's pre-arranged with the selector, like it's a
Yeah.
rare book.
Yeah,
Or
and the
something
next-
with, yeah, so we changed that a bit around a bit.
Yeah, that's like,
The
at one
next
point it
step.
said welcomes gifts.
Yes.
We really
May-
don't.
May accept.
Yeah.
Because then you could,
Yeah.
getting anything
Yeah.
you don't want. and
Yeah.
then-
Well, and then, they expect to see it on the shelf,
Right,
and then
right.
they get
Well, that's
upset
why
if
I-
you take it off the shelf.
That's why I
Yeah,
asked
yeah.
this question when I read it, because it says that
Right, it says,
once you get it, the library could do anything with
Anything.
it.
Right,
but The
because-
donor might not be too happy about it.
right, because that's why
it's in the
we,
That's why it's in the
we
policy.
say in circumstances, the Pat's Library may accept gifts of books.
Mhm.
Because we're really discouraging
Yeah.
it, and we
Yeah.
really will probably,
We try
we
to
don't.
encourage donations of financial, so if
Yeah.
you want us to buy
Yeah.
a book, there's
Yeah.
a children's
Good. There's a
room
way.
donor who does that,
Yeah.
I would like you to buy this book, here's a check. You know,
Um,
Well,
okay, so, yeah, so we'll make that one.
Yeah.
So why don't we just see this next month and we'll just the tightening up with the clarifications and then we'll.
Yeah.
that'll be-
So are there other clarifications other than that one?
I don't think so. Does that, unless Tommy feels like, I think that's covered pretty.
So, I
well.
mean, so you don't think it
For
can
the
go
written
for
one.
vote without before we fix, I mean, it can't go with an amendment?
I don't see, we haven't seen the amendment, we haven't agreed. It's not clear from what I can tell just what the intent was for this revised draft on
On that
on
one.
that
Yeah.
particular section.
So it's just that one sentence that needs to be fixed?
Yeah, well, I think,
It's-
well,
Was there anything else or?
there was the Peggy's question about participation, whether that's
Oh, right.
that's implied or whether that has to be specified.
Okay, so you want us to look at the number 1 of goals and selection?
Yeah, I think you want
Okay.
to Patriot in there.
Yeah, I think that would make it quite clearer.
Okay, so goals and selection number 1. Okay, all right. All right, so make sure we know what we need to look at for next month. Okay,
If that's it, then we think we need a motion to go into executive session.
all right, I'm gonna end the recording here.
Okay, is there a second? Eileen? Okay. Agreed, all in favor?
I don't know if
Move
there's,
into executive session?
okay, hold on just a minute. I don't know that I entered the.
Yeah.
Yeah.